The loud warning alarm cut through the peaceful morning air across the wheat fields of Kepler 442b. Tyler Chin stood at his weather monitoring station, staring at readings that made his blood run cold. The solar storm approaching wasn't just dangerous, it was catastrophic. Class X50, possibly even stronger. In less than 30 minutes, an electromagnetic pulse would knock out every piece of unprotected technology on this entire side of the planet. Tyler didn't waste time panicking. He'd been through worse situations before, though those were in a different life. He moved quickly through his farmhouse, his hands working from muscle memory as he activated his backup systems one by one. The chickens needed to be secured in their reinforced coop. The irrigation systems had to be shut down properly. The emergency generator needed its final check. Every movement was calm, deliberate, efficient. He was 42 years old now. 5 years had passed since he'd walked away from his old career, trading in his military uniform for simple work clothes and a farmer's life. Out here on the frontier colony, things were supposed to be different. Quiet mornings. Honest work. No surprises. That's exactly what he'd wanted after everything he'd seen and done. The sky above began changing colors in a way that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so terrifying. Purple and green lights danced across the horizon as charged particles from the sun started slamming into the planet's upper atmosphere. It looked like the northern lights back on Earth, but far more intense and ominous. Tyler was heading back to check on his livestock when something caught his eye near the northern fence line. Movement. Big movement. He stopped and counted carefully. 13 figures were coming over the hill, and they were moving fast toward his property. Even from several hundred yards away, Tyler could tell these weren't human. They were massive, each one standing somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall. Their fur, mostly gray and black, was visible even at this distance as it moved with their powerful strides. They wore combat gear that looked professional and expensive. The weapons they carried were the kind that could punch through reinforced steel. Valerian wolfkin. Tyler had served alongside a few during his military days. They were known throughout the galaxy as some of the most effective hunters and fighters in existence. Seeing 13 of them together meant this was a full hunting pack, probably bounty hunters given their equipment. The pack's leader raised one clawed hand high in the air. Immediately all 13 stopped moving. They held their position about 50 yards from Tyler's front porch, maintaining a formation that showed discipline and training. The leader was clearly the alpha female. She was the largest of the group, with silver streaks running through her dark fur. Multiple scars crossed her muzzle, marks of past battles survived. When her amber eyes locked onto Tyler, there was an intelligence and intensity there that had made many soldiers uncomfortable. Most humans would have felt their legs go weak under that stare. Her voice carried easily across the distance, a deep growl that somehow formed perfect words. Human. I am Commander Rhea of the Crimson Fang Pack. Our ship has been disabled by the approaching storm. We require immediate shelter. Tyler's eyes scanned their group quickly, his old training kicking in without thought. They were arranged in a defensive formation, not an aggressive one. That was a good sign. Then he noticed one of them, a wolf with rust-colored fur, was putting most of her weight on her right side. The left side of her body showed signs of recent injury. Storm hits in 20 minutes, Tyler called back, his voice steady and calm. My barn has shielding. Follow me if you want to live through this. Commander Rhea's pointed ears twitched forward in obvious surprise. For a moment she seemed genuinely confused. You accept our presence? You show no fear. Tyler grabbed his emergency supply kit from where it sat ready on the porch. He looked up at the enormous predator and asked simply, should I be afraid? A younger wolf with jet black fur made a sound that might have been a laugh or a scoff. She looked to be maybe in her early 20s if you translated wolf years to human terms. Most prey species run when they see us, human. We're apex predators. Name's Tyler, he responded, already walking toward the large barn structure. And I'm not running anywhere. This is my property, and that storm doesn't care what species you are. Now are you coming or do you want to argue until the pulse hits? The pack members exchanged quick glances with each other, clearly not expecting this reaction. Commander Rhea made a sharp hand gesture, and without another word, all 13 fell into formation behind the human farmer who was leading them to safety. Tyler reached the barn doors just as the first electromagnetic pulse rippled across the sky. Every light on his farm flickered once, twice, then died completely. The main house went dark. The automated fence systems shut down. Even his truck's display panel went black. But not the barn. As Tyler pulled open the heavy reinforced doors, emergency lighting hummed to life inside, bathed in red to preserve night vision. His backup generator, shielded by layers of specialized materials, continued running smoothly. "Inside now," Tyler ordered, his voice carrying the tone of someone used to being obeyed in emergencies. The 13 wolves filed through the door one by one, their eyes quickly adjusting to the dimmer red lighting. Once inside, several of them stopped and stared. The barn was deceptively large, much bigger on the inside than it appeared from the outside. Multiple rooms branched off from the main space. The walls were lined with equipment that told a story. Yes, there were farming tools, plows, seeders, irrigation equipment. But there were other things too. Things that didn't belong on a simple farm. A complete medical station with supplies that looked military grade. Communications equipment that was clearly designed for long-range operation. Storage lockers with heavy-duty locks that suggested they contained something valuable or dangerous. Julie, the youngest member of the pack with sandy-colored fur, leaned close to her companion and whispered, "This isn't a normal farm. Look at all this equipment." Tyler secured the main door as the full force of the storm hit outside. The entire building shuddered from the impact, but the structure held firm. Through the small reinforced windows, lightning could be seen arcing across the sky in massive sheets of brilliant white and electric blue. The howling wind made the walls creak, but nothing gave way. Tyler turned to face his unexpected guests, all 13 pairs of eyes now focused on him. "You'll be safe here," he said matter-of-factly. "Storm should pass in 4 to 5 days based on the readings. I have enough supplies for all of us." Commander Rhea took a step forward, and suddenly Tyler was reminded just how much larger these beings were than him. She towered over him by at least 2 feet, her presence filling the space. "You were prepared, human. This shielding is military grade, not civilian equipment." "Old habits die hard," Tyler replied with a slight shrug. He moved toward the medical station and began pulling out supplies. "Your friend there, the one with rust-colored fur, she's injured. Bring her over here so I can take a look." A stocky wolf with brown fur immediately bristled, her hackles raising. "How dare you give orders to?" "Beth, stand down." Commander Rhea's command cut through the air like a blade. The brown wolf immediately quieted, though she continued to watch Tyler with suspicious eyes. Rhea studied the human with renewed interest, her head tilting slightly. "You have training in field medicine?" "Among other things," Tyler answered as he laid out bandages, antiseptics, and other medical supplies with practiced efficiency. "Just because I'm a farmer now doesn't mean I forgot everything I learned before." Within just the first hour of the storm, the temperature inside the barn dropped by 15 degrees. Tyler could hear the wolves moving around in the main area, their heavy footsteps and low conversations carrying through the space. He was doing his rounds, checking all the systems to make sure everything was functioning properly. The geothermal heating system should have activated automatically when the temperature fell, but Tyler had learned long ago never to assume technology would work perfectly. He needed to verify it with his own eyes. When he entered the control room, he found Commander Rhea standing there along with her second-in-command. The second wolf was leaner than Rhea, with sleek silver fur that caught the red emergency lighting. Her name was Victoria, and she carried herself with the careful alertness of someone who'd survived by never letting her guard down. Both wolves were staring at his control panel, and Victoria's voice carried a tone that was almost accusing when she spoke. "Your systems are still working. Every single one of them. Do you understand what that means? Everything else on this entire continent has gone dark. Cities, military bases, communication networks, all dead. But your farm is running like nothing happened." Tyler moved past them and began adjusting a valve on the heating system, his movements casual and unbothered by their scrutiny. "It's called Faraday shielding combined with hardened circuits and redundant backup systems. The geothermal heating taps directly into heat from the planet's core. The beauty of it is that the basic functions don't need any electronics at all. It's mostly mechanical." Beth, the stocky brown wolf who'd been suspicious of Tyler from the start, patted over on her large paws. She watched him work for a moment before asking, "You built all of this yourself? This entire setup?" Tyler checked a pressure gauge and made a minor adjustment before answering. "Most of it, yeah. I've had 5 years out here with not much else to occupy my time. When you're alone on a frontier world, you either learn to be self-sufficient or you don't survive long." Near the heating vents on the far side of the barn, the younger members of the wolf pack had clustered together, clearly grateful for the warmth that was now flowing through the system. One of them, a female with gray fur named Ashley, suddenly called out to her commander. "Commander Rhea, you need to see this. His medical station has supplies I've never encountered before, not even in military field hospitals." Tyler walked over to where Diana was resting. The rust-colored wolf had been injured in whatever fight had brought the pack to his planet, and he'd treated her wound the previous night. Already the injury looked significantly better than it had hours ago. "How's the pain level?" he asked, kneeling down to examine his work. Diana's eyes followed his movements with clear curiosity. "It's manageable now. Much better than before." She paused, then asked, "You learned these medical techniques in Earth's military?" "Combat medic training," Tyler confirmed as he checked the bandages and applied fresh antiseptic. "Humans have been patching each other up for thousands of years. We've had a lot of practice at keeping people alive in bad situations. We got good at field medicine because we had to. When you're a species that's relatively fragile compared to most of the galaxy, you learn how to heal quickly or you die out." He reached into a storage container and pulled out a ration pack, tossing it to Diana. "Eat something. Your body needs fuel to heal." Commander Rhea settled her massive frame onto the floor nearby, her amber eyes never leaving Tyler. "Your species fascinates the entire galactic community, you know. Humans are so physically fragile compared to most spacefaring races, yet you're so incredibly persistent. It's a contradiction we don't fully understand." From across the room, a wolf named Kelly let out a barking laugh. "Fragile? Commander, look at him. He's tiny. How is that fascinating?" Tyler allowed himself a slight smile. "Humans aren't built for raw physical power. That was never our evolutionary advantage. We're built for endurance, for outlasting everything else." Victoria's pointed ears perked forward with interest. "Endurance? Explain what you mean by that." Tyler leaned back against a workbench, settling in to tell them something most aliens found hard to believe. On Earth, our ancestors used to hunt by literally chasing prey animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. It's called persistence hunting. See, humans have this ability to regulate our body temperature through sweating. It's not common in the galaxy. Most predator species can sprint fast for short bursts, but then they overheat and have to stop to cool down. Humans? We can run for hours. Some of us can run for days without stopping. Beth scoffed loudly, her disbelief obvious. "Days? That's physically impossible. No creature can run for days." "Humans have run over 400 miles without stopping," Tyler continued calmly. "We've climbed mountains so high that the lack of oxygen kills most species before they reach halfway. We've survived and thrived in scorching deserts, frozen tundras, humid jungles, and every extreme environment you can imagine. We're not the fastest species. We're definitely not the strongest. But we simply don't stop moving forward." He walked over to check Diana's bandage one more time as he spoke. "That's what makes humans dangerous. We outlast everything." The wolves exchanged uncertain glances with each other, clearly not sure whether to believe what they were hearing. Julie, the sandy-colored young wolf, tilted her head in that curious way canines do. "What's your daily routine here on the farm, Tyler?" "I start with a 10-mile run every morning to stay in shape. Then equipment maintenance, checking the crops, general field work." "Why do you ask?" The barn fell completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Julie's voice came out much smaller than before. 10 miles? That's the maximum distance our pack can pursue a target before we absolutely have to stop and rest." "You're saying you do that every single morning just for exercise?" Tyler shrugged like it was nothing special. "Like I said, endurance is what humans do." Brenda, a massive wolf with black fur who'd been quiet until now, suddenly stood up to her full intimidating height. "You're making big claims, human. I think you need to prove them." "Brenda," Commander Rhea started to warn her subordinate. But Brenda interrupted, her voice challenging. "Arm wrestling. Simple, straightforward test of strength. Let's see if humans are really as capable as you claim." Tyler looked up at the wolf who outweighed him by at least 200 pounds of pure muscle. He was silent for a moment, considering. Then he nodded. "All right. Let's do it." They cleared space at a workbench. When Brenda placed her clawed hand on the surface, it completely dwarfed Tyler's human hand as they gripped each other. The size difference was almost comical. Victoria stepped forward to count them down. 3, 1, go. The match lasted exactly 12 seconds before Brenda's hand slammed down onto the table surface. She'd lost. Every wolf in the barn went completely silent, staring in shock. Brenda's growl was low and dangerous. "Again. We go again." They reset their positions. Victoria counted down again. The same result. Tyler won even faster the second time. Ashley stepped up next, determination in her eyes. Then Kelly tried. Then Beth, despite her earlier skepticism. One by one, the wolves tested themselves against the small human farmer. Tyler won every single match. Beth stared at her own trembling arm afterward, genuine confusion on her face. How is this possible? You're half my size. This doesn't make sense. Victoria spoke quietly, almost to herself. Human grip strength is legendary throughout the galaxy. I always thought those stories were exaggerated. Tyler flexed his hand, completely unbothered by the series of matches. Humans evolved to climb, to hold on to things, to carry loads over long distances. That meant we needed hands that could crush and grip with incredible force. Our bones are denser than most species our size. Our muscles are built for sustained force over time rather than explosive bursts. We're persistence predators who learned to make and use tools, which meant our hands had to be strong enough to hold on through anything. Commander Rhea stood slowly, and there was something new in the way she looked at Tyler now. Respect. You're not what you appear to be, Tyler Chin. Few humans are, Commander, he replied simply. Now get some rest. We've still got 4 more days of this storm to survive together. By the 3rd day of the storm, the wolves were becoming visibly restless. Tyler could see it in how they paced back and forth across the barn floor, in the way their ears constantly swiveled toward every sound, in how their tails twitched with barely contained energy. Valorians were born hunters, creatures built for movement and action. Their entire biology screamed at them to be doing something, chasing something, fighting something. Being forced to sit idle in one place went against every instinct hardwired into their DNA. The tension in the barn had been building all day. Small disagreements that would normally be brushed aside were turning into serious confrontations. Arguments broke out over the ration food portions, over who got to sleep in which corner, over nothing at all really. The constant howling of the wind outside wasn't helping anyone's mood. It was a reminder that they were trapped, powerless against the forces of nature raging beyond the walls. Tyler watched from the doorway of his small quarters as Beth and Kelly squared off against each other, their hackles raised and teeth bared. What had started as a minor disagreement about sleeping arrangements was about to turn into a physical fight. Both wolves were growling low in their throats, circling each other with aggressive body language. Enough. Commander Rhea's voice cut through the tension like a whip crack. Both wolves immediately backed down, though they continued to glare at each other. But Tyler could see that even Rhea was feeling the strain. The commander's shoulders were tight with stress and her jaw was clenched. She was holding the pack together through sheer force of will, but everyone had their limits. Tyler disappeared back into his quarters for a moment, then emerged carrying an armload of cut wood. He walked right into the center of the main barn area and dropped the wood onto the floor. Any of you know how to start a fire the old-fashioned way? Without technology. The wolves stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Within just a few minutes, Tyler had a proper campfire burning in the barn's reinforced central pit. He'd actually designed this feature into the barn specifically for situations like this. A safe place to have an open flame with proper ventilation. The wolves gathered around the fire without anyone telling them to, drawn to the dancing flames by instincts older than civilization itself. Victoria sat down near the fire and spoke thoughtfully. Humans and fire. It's one of the many things that sets your species apart from the rest of us. Most species discovered fire after they'd already developed technology. You built your entire civilization on it. Tyler settled himself onto a wooden bench, the firelight casting shadows across his face. Fire kept our ancestors alive through ice ages that should have wiped us out. 100,000 years ago, my ancestors sat around flames just like this one, huddled together for warmth, telling each other stories to pass the long dark nights. Julie, the young sandy-colored wolf, perked up immediately. Her ears stood straight up with interest. Stories? What kind of stories? You want to hear about how humanity survived when everything was trying to kill us? Tyler poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks drifting upward. Let me tell you about the Donner Party. He told them the story of pioneers trying to cross a mountain range, getting trapped by early snow. He described how they survived for months with almost nothing to eat, in temperatures that would kill most people. Then he moved on to Shackleton's Antarctic expedition, a group of men whose ship was crushed by ice, stranded in the most hostile environment on Earth for nearly 2 years. And somehow, incredibly, every single one of them survived and made it home. Beth muttered from her spot near the fire, "Your species is completely insane." But Tyler noticed she was leaning forward, listening intently to every word. Diana, still recovering from her injury, offered a different perspective from where she rested. Or maybe they're just determined. There's a difference between insanity and refusing to give up. Brenda, the large black-furred wolf, spoke up with a request. Tell us about human warfare. We've heard rumors throughout the galaxy, but no one seems to agree on what's true and what's exaggeration. Tyler's expression grew darker, more serious. The flickering firelight made his face look older somehow. That's not a pleasant topic to discuss. Commander Rhea's voice was firm. We're bounty hunters, Tyler. We've seen violence. We understand what war means. We can handle the truth. So Tyler told them. He started with the story of Marathon, where a human soldier ran 26 miles without stopping to deliver a crucial message, then collapsed and died from the effort. He described the Battle of Stalingrad, where humans fought each other building by building, room by room, through an entire winter in sub-zero temperatures. He told them about the siege of Sarajevo, where regular people survived for years while their city was under constant bombardment, where children played in streets where snipers could kill them at any moment. When he finished, his voice was quiet but intense. Humans don't surrender easily. We'll fight until there's absolutely nothing left to fight with. Then we'll fight with our bare hands, with rocks, with our teeth if we have to. And if we're somehow defeated, we'll remember what happened for generations and we'll come back stronger. We never forget. We never forgive. And we never stop. Ashley actually shivered despite sitting close to the warm fire. That's absolutely terrifying when you describe it that way. Tyler met her eyes across the flames. It's survival. Every species in the galaxy has their own strengths. Valorians are incredible hunters with pack tactics that are practically unbeatable. But humans? We're the species that looked at a planet actively trying to kill us in every possible way and decided we were going to conquer it instead. Earth didn't want us. We made it ours anyway. Victoria asked carefully, choosing her words with obvious thought. Is that why you left the military? Because you'd seen too much conquest? Too much of what humans can do? Tyler stared into the flames for a long moment before answering. I left because I'd seen what humans are capable of when we stop holding ourselves back. When we let go of mercy and restraint. I'd seen enough destruction for one lifetime. I wanted to build things instead. Grow things. Create life instead of ending it. Rhea leaned forward, her amber eyes reflecting the firelight. But you could still fight if you had to. If there was no other choice. Everyone can fight when they have to, Commander. Every living creature has that capability when survival is on the line. The real question isn't whether you can fight. It's whether you choose to when you have other options. Kelly spoke up from the shadows at the edge of the firelight. What was your combat specialty? You move like someone with special forces training. I've seen enough soldiers to recognize the signs. Tyler added another piece of wood to the fire, watching the flames grow higher. Search and rescue operations. Hostage extraction. Deep reconnaissance behind enemy lines. I specialized in going into impossible situations and bringing people home alive. That's what I was good at. Diana connected the pieces out loud. The medical skills. The endurance. The careful planning. It all makes sense now. Tyler nodded slowly. It's all connected. Humans are pack animals too in our own way. We're social creatures. We form bonds. And we take care of our own no matter what it costs us. That's not weakness, that's our greatest strength. The barn gradually fell quiet except for the crackling of the fire and the distant howling of the storm outside. It was a comfortable silence now, not the tense atmosphere from earlier. Julie moved closer to the flames, settling down with her head on her paws. Tyler? Thank you for sharing those stories with us. Anytime, kid. That's what stories are for, connecting people, passing on knowledge, helping us understand each other. As the night wore on, the wolves eventually drifted off to sleep one by one, exhausted by days of tension and confinement. But Commander Rhea remained awake, sitting across the fire from Tyler, watching him tend the flames with patient, practiced movements. She was beginning to truly understand something that the wider galactic community had been slowly learning. Humans weren't impressive because they were perfect warriors or unbeatable fighters. They were impressive because they never stopped adapting to new challenges, never stopped finding ways to survive, and most importantly, never abandoned their own people no matter how bad things got. Outside the barn, the solar storm continued to rage across the planet's surface, with lightning and electromagnetic chaos. But inside, gathered around a simple campfire, a different kind of understanding was growing between two very different species. The mechanical perimeter alarm jolted Tyler awake at exactly 4 in the morning on the 4th day of the storm. His eyes snapped open instantly, and within seconds he was on his feet with a weapon in his hand. Years of military training had never really left him. His body remembered how to respond to danger even when his conscious mind was still catching up. Old instincts flooded back through his system like electricity. The wolves began stirring throughout the barn as Tyler moved quickly through the space, heading straight for the monitoring station. His footsteps were purposeful and silent despite his speed. He began checking the monitors that were connected to his purely mechanical defense systems. No electronics that could be fried by the storm, just reliable old-school engineering. Commander Rhea appeared at his side almost instantly, fully alert despite having been asleep moments before. "What is it? What's happening?" Tyler's eyes scanned the mechanical readouts, his face grim. Motion sensors triggered on the north and east perimeters. Multiple contacts moving inbound. He pulled up a mechanical tracker system that used nothing but carefully balanced weights and springs to detect movement and calculate positions. "I'm counting at least 15 hostile contacts, possibly as many as 20. Victoria pushed her way through to join them, her sharp eyes reading the primitive but effective display. Her ears flattened against her skull. Crawl raiders. It has to be them. Beth was suddenly wide awake, a growl building in her throat. Those are the bounty hunters who've been tracking our pack for weeks. They must have followed us here and waited for the perfect moment. Tyler watched the indicators continuing to update in real time. The contacts were spreading out in a coordinated pattern, slowly surrounding his entire farm from multiple directions. These weren't random raiders or desperate scavengers. These were professional movements from trained fighters who knew exactly what they were doing. They know you're vulnerable during the storm. Your ship is disabled, you're trapped in one location, and communication is impossible. From a tactical standpoint, it's actually a smart play on their part. Rhea's voice was heavy with the weight of command and the knowledge of their situation. We're critically low on ammunition after our last fight. Diana is still recovering from her injury. The rest of us are exhausted from days of confinement. We're not in good shape for a fight. She turned to face Tyler directly, her amber eyes serious. You should hide somewhere safe. This isn't your fight. You don't owe us anything. Tyler's response was immediate and firm. This is my home. My property. My responsibility. He moved to a section of wall that looked completely ordinary and began pulling levers hidden behind a false panel. And I sure didn't spend 5 years building all of this just for farming. The barn floor beneath their feet trembled slightly. All around the walls, hidden panels began sliding open with mechanical precision, revealing caches of weapons, tactical equipment, and military-grade gear that had been carefully concealed. The wolves stared in complete shock. Kelly's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "Holy, you said you were retired from the military." "I am retired," Tyler replied calmly while pulling out equipment and checking it with practiced efficiency. "Retired doesn't mean stupid. It just means I'm not actively serving anymore." He began handing out protective gear to the wolves. Crawl raiders are brutal and dangerous, but they're also predictable. They fight the same way every time. They'll try to burn us out with fire or they'll attempt to breach the main door with brute force. Those are their standard tactics. Brenda grabbed a weapon and began checking it over, her military training evident. "Then we make our defensive stand right here at the barn. We hold this position no matter what." "No," Tyler said firmly, pulling on tactical gloves that had clearly seen use before. "We don't just sit here waiting. We let them come to us but on our terms. This is my property. I know every single inch of this land, every advantage and disadvantage. They don't know any of it. That gives us the edge." He led the group to a bank of monitors that showed feeds from mechanical cameras positioned around the property. No electronics, no circuits to fry, just cleverly arranged mirrors and lenses that provided visual coverage of the entire farm. "See those fields out there? I spent 5 full years setting up defenses throughout this property. Let me show you what I mean." Ashley leaned forward and pointed at the monitor showing the northern field. "Wait, those furrows in the ground, those aren't normal plow lines, are they?" "Camouflaged pit traps," Tyler confirmed with a slight smile. "And the irrigation system that runs under the fields? I modified it. It's currently filled with a chemical compound I developed that will temporarily blind crawl vision for about an hour. It specifically burns out their thermal vision receptors without causing permanent damage. And those fence posts you see scattered around? They're actually sound emitters calibrated to frequencies that will completely disorient reptilian inner ear structures." Victoria stared at him with a mixture of awe and something that might have been fear. "You're not really a farmer at all, are you?" "You're..." "I'm both," Tyler interrupted, his hands already moving to activate the first defensive sequence. "I'm absolutely a farmer now, but I'm also still the soldier I used to be. Those things don't cancel each other out. Now watch what happens." On the monitors, 6 crawl raiders suddenly stumbled and fell as the ground gave way beneath them. They'd walked right into the camouflaged pit traps. The pits weren't deep enough to kill anyone. Tyler had specifically designed them that way, but they were definitely deep enough to break bones and completely remove those fighters from the battle. Julie was watching the monitors intently. The sprinkler system is activating now. I can see the spray pattern. Chemical mist suddenly erupted across the entire northern field in a coordinated pattern. The Crawl Raiders who were still mobile began shrieking in pain and confusion, clawing desperately at their own eyes as their thermal vision was overwhelmed by the compound. They scattered in all directions, stumbling blindly and completely disoriented. Tyler's hands moved to the next control panel. Activating sound barriers now. The fence posts throughout the property began emitting a frequency that was completely inaudible to human and Valerian ears. But for the Crawl Raiders with their reptilian biology, it was devastating. Their inner ear structures couldn't handle the specific frequency. They stumbled around like they were drunk, unable to maintain balance or coordinate their movements. Diana watched from her resting position, her voice filled with genuine awe. He's systematically taking apart an entire raiding force without firing a single shot. This is incredible. But 3 Crawl Raiders had somehow made it through all the defenses. They were approaching the barn itself now, weapons raised and ready. Tyler immediately grabbed a rifle from the weapons cache, but the wolves noticed it wasn't loaded with standard ammunition. These were tranquilizer rounds, designed to incapacitate without killing. Tyler's voice carried the tone of absolute command. Everyone stays here. That's an order. Rhea reached out toward him. Tyler, wait. But he was already moving toward the door, his body flowing into combat mode like he'd never left the military at all. The wolves rushed to the monitors to watch what happened next. Tyler emerged into the chaos of the storm outside. His movements were absolutely precise, with zero wasted motion. Every step was calculated. Every action had purpose. Years of elite training were evident in the way he used the terrain to his advantage, the way he positioned himself using the farm buildings for cover, the way he turned the storm itself into a weapon by moving with it instead of against it. The first Crawl Raider went down from a tranquilizer dart before he even knew Tyler was there. The second one spotted the human and charged directly at him with a roar of rage. Tyler didn't panic. He sidestepped at the last possible moment, using the Raider's own momentum against him, and sent the massive reptilian crashing headfirst into the side of an equipment shed. The Raider dropped unconscious from the impact. The third Crawl was smarter and more experienced. She circled carefully, looking for an opening to attack, her weapon tracking Tyler's movements. But Tyler didn't give her any openings. He kept moving, kept adjusting his position, forcing her to move exactly where he wanted her to go. Finally, she stepped in exactly the right spot and, snap, another mechanical trap triggered. She went down hard. Tyler stood there in the middle of the storm, surrounded by incapacitated raiders but without a single fatality. Not one death. He disabled an entire attack force through superior planning and tactical thinking. When he returned to the barn, Commander Rhea met him at the door. Her voice carried a tone the other wolves had rarely heard from their commander, genuine respect mixed with something like wonder. You could have killed them all easily. You had every tactical advantage. But you chose not to. Tyler set down his rifle and began removing his tactical gloves. Yes, I chose not to. Because mercy is also a human trait, Commander. We're capable of terrible violence when necessary, but we're also capable of choosing a different path. Those raiders will wake up in a few hours with nothing worse than bruised pride and some broken equipment. That's punishment enough. They'll think twice before attacking anyone sheltering on this property again. Brenda slowly shook her massive head, her expression somewhere between admiration and disbelief. Your species is absolutely terrifying. I need you to understand that. Tyler allowed himself a tired smile. We can be terrifying when we need to be. But we can also choose to show restraint and compassion. That choice, that's what makes us human. The fifth day arrived with a sky so clear and blue it almost hurt to look at. The solar storm had finally passed, leaving behind perfect weather that seemed impossible after days of electromagnetic chaos. Tyler stood on his porch with a cup of coffee, watching the 13 wolves working around their ship in the distance. The Crawl Raiders had limped away just after first light, defeated and humiliated. Their bodies would heal quickly enough, but their pride had taken a beating they wouldn't forget anytime soon. Diana was the first to approach the porch. She moved with fluid grace now, showing absolutely no sign of the serious injury that had been threatening her life just days ago. The wound has healed completely, she said, her golden eyes meeting Tyler's. I want you to know that you have my deepest gratitude for what you did. Tyler took a sip of his coffee and shrugged slightly. I was just doing what's right. Nothing special about that. Diana tilted her head in that distinctly canine way, studying him carefully. It was much more than that, and you know it. You could have easily turned us away when we first arrived. You had every reason to refuse us entry to your property. Very few beings in this galaxy would willingly shelter 13 Valerian hunters, especially during a crisis. Most species are terrified of us. Kelly and Ashley came walking up together, both carrying supply packs that Tyler had prepared for them earlier that morning. Kelly held up one of the packs and said, "These rations you've given us will last our pack at least a month, maybe longer if we're careful. You really don't have to give us so much." Tyler interrupted her before she could finish. "I want to give them to you. You're traveling through dangerous territory to get back to civilized space. You'll need supplies, and I have plenty to spare." Brenda emerged from the barn at that moment, followed closely by Beth and Julie. The youngest wolf, Julie, looked like she wanted to say something but was hesitating. She kept glancing at Tyler and then looking away nervously. Tyler noticed and gave her an encouraging nod. "Go ahead, kid. Ask whatever's on your mind." Julie took a breath and finally spoke. "Why did you really leave the military? I mean the real reason. You're clearly still capable of everything you used to do. You haven't lost any of your skills or instincts. So why walk away from that life?" Tyler's gaze drifted away from the wolves and out across his fields. The wheat was swaying gently in the morning breeze, creating waves of gold and green that rolled across the landscape. He was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Because I'd seen enough death, kid. More than enough for one lifetime. I wanted to create life instead of taking it. I wanted to grow things and build things and make the universe a little bit better. Humans are incredibly good at destruction. We've had thousands of years of practice at it. But here's what most species don't understand about us. We're even better at rebuilding. We're better at taking a barren desert and turning it into a garden. We're better at looking at nothing and making something beautiful from it." Victoria approached with Commander Rhea walking beside her. Victoria spoke first, her tone serious and official. "I've updated our ship's database with new information. The Bounty Hunters Guild needs to know about what happened here." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "Know about what exactly?" Victoria's response was simple but carried weight. "About humans. About what your species is really capable of. You're not what the rest of the galaxy thinks you are. Most species have completely misunderstood Earth and its people." Commander Rhea stepped forward then, and what she did next sent a visible shock through her entire pack. She lowered her head in a deep gesture of respect, something that Valorians only ever did for those they considered equals or superiors. It was not a gesture given lightly or frequently. "Tyler Chin," Rhea said formally, her voice carrying the weight of sincere emotion. "You gave us shelter when you had absolutely no obligation to do so. You healed our wounded. You protected us from our enemies. And you did all of this while showing a level of restraint and mercy that most species in this galaxy, including my own proud warrior race, would never be capable of managing." She raised her head and locked her amber eyes directly onto his. "I misjudged your species badly. We all did. And I'm sorry for that." Tyler set down his coffee cup and met her gaze steadily. "Most species misjudge humans, Commander. It's nothing new. They look at us and see weakness because we're not physically built like natural warriors. Our bodies are small compared to most spacefaring races. We don't have claws or fangs or armor plating. But here's the truth that the galaxy keeps learning the hard way: humans don't need to be born as warriors. We're survivors first and foremost. We adapt to anything. We endure everything. And we never, ever give up, no matter how impossible the situation seems." Ashley, who'd been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. "Are all humans like you? Is your whole species this capable?" Tyler actually laughed at that, a genuine sound of amusement. "No, definitely not. Some humans are better than me in various ways. Some are worse. We're individuals with our own strengths and weaknesses, just like every other species in the universe. But there is a core truth about humanity that applies to all of us. We looked at a universe that was actively hostile to our existence, a universe that clearly didn't want us to survive, and we decided it was ours anyway. We survived ice ages that should have killed us. We survived plagues that wiped out huge portions of our population. We survived countless wars with each other. We survived famines and disasters and everything else the universe threw at us. We figured out how to split the atom and harness nuclear power. We built ships and touched the stars. We're not impressive because we're the physically strongest species out there. We're not impressive because we're the fastest or the most naturally armed." Julie finished his thought softly, understanding dawning in her eyes. You're impressive because you simply don't stop. No matter what happens, humans just keep going forward. Tyler pointed at her and nodded. Exactly right. That's the key to understanding humanity. The entire pack began gathering near their ship for the final departure preparations. The vessel hummed as its systems came back to life, fully restored after the storm. But before any of them boarded, each wolf took time to approach Tyler individually. Some simply nodded their heads in respect. Others spoke brief words of thanks. Diana reached out and clasped Tyler's shoulder firmly, a gesture of warrior respect. Beth grinned and playfully challenged him to a rematch arm wrestling competition someday when they met again. Kelly made a serious promise to spread the word throughout the bounty hunter networks about human farmers who were far more than they appeared to be. Commander Rhea was the very last to say goodbye. If you ever need the assistance of the Crimson Fang Pack for any reason, you have only to call for us. We owe you a debt that we take very seriously. Tyler shook his head. There's no debt between us, Commander. You don't owe me anything. Just remember what you learned here during these 5 days. That humans choose kindness and mercy even when they have the power and ability to choose violence instead? Victoria asked, wanting to make sure she understood correctly. Tyler considered her words and then refined them slightly. That we choose. That's the important part of the lesson. Having the power to destroy something and consciously choosing not to use that power, that's what real civilization looks like. That's what separates thinking beings from simple animals. The choice matters more than the capability. As the wolves began boarding their ship one by one, Rhea paused at the boarding ramp and turned back one final time. Tyler? I have one more question if you don't mind. Go ahead. Would you have fought differently if the Kral Raiders had posed a more serious threat to your home? If they'd been trying to destroy your farm rather than just attacking us? Tyler's expression shifted, becoming harder and more serious. His easygoing farmer demeanor fell away for just a moment, revealing the soldier underneath. Commander, if they had seriously threatened to destroy my home, I would have shown them exactly why humans don't surrender. I would have demonstrated why we fight building by building, mile by mile, year after year if that's what it takes. I would have reminded them why the galaxy learned very quickly that invading Earth is a really bad idea. They would have understood why humanity is feared. Rhea smiled, a fearsome expression on a Valerian face full of sharp teeth. That's exactly what I thought you'd say. I'm very glad we're not enemies, Tyler Chin. Me too, Commander. Me too. The ship lifted off slowly, its engines roaring as it climbed into that perfect blue sky. As it rose higher and higher, Tyler could see Rhea standing at a viewport in the ship's side. She raised one clawed hand in a final salute of respect. Tyler returned the gesture, raising his own hand. Later that same day, the Bounty Hunters Guild received an important update to their species database. The entry for humans was completely revised. Human, Earth origin, revised assessment, approach with respect at all times. Do not mistake their kindness for weakness or their patience for inability to act. Humans are endurance predators who carefully choose their battles. Underestimating them is potentially fatal. Alliance potential rated extremely high. Threat potential also rated extremely high. Handle all interactions accordingly and with appropriate caution. Personal note from Commander Rhea of the Crimson Fang Pack. They will outlast you. They will outlive you. They will remember everything for generations. Make them your friends and allies, never your enemies. Back on his quiet farm, Tyler returned to his normal daily routine. The wheat fields needed tending. Fences required repair after the storm damage. Equipment needed maintenance. Life simply went on as it always had. But Tyler smiled to himself as he worked, knowing that somewhere out there among the stars, 13 wolf bounty hunters now understood a fundamental truth about humanity. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been physical strength or advanced technology. It was the absolute refusal to give up under any circumstances. It was the choice to show kindness when cruelty would be easier. It was the promise that humans would always protect what belonged to them. The galaxy was learning these lessons slowly. But it was learning. And for Tyler that was enough.